Hi, you're listening to the Great Women in Compliance podcast on the Compliance Podcast Network with Hema Lomax and me, Lisa Fine. I am really excited about my guest today, Karolina Aleksandrova, who is the founder of ProMoney, which is based in the Ukraine. ProMoney is a consultancy and also an organization that leads various audit, compliance, and other business forums in Eastern Europe. So, great community, we have a big treat today. Not only do we get the chance to hear about what Karolina is doing to bring together audit, risk, and compliance professionals in Eastern Europe, we also get to hear a lot about life in Ukraine, which is something that I know we've all been really thinking about all over the world because of what's going on there. So, Karolina, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for doing your first podcast. And thank you the most for doing it in English, since otherwise none of us would be fully able to understand it. So thank you so much. So with that, let's start with your journey to ProMoney and your career path. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Of course, Lisa. Hello, Lisa. Hello, community. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm happy to share my experience and ideas with your community. Talking about my path to ProMoney, it took me about 30 years to be here. It's really a long way. And I started my career in a private bank, one of the biggest Ukrainian banks in correspondent banking department. And those times I was responsible for relations with other banks worldwide. So my professional experience in banking and finance is from that period of life. In those times, we arranged interbank conferences uniting bankers from many countries. So it became the start of my career as organizer of professional events. After that, I established my own company, ProMoney, and now ProMoney unites professionals in compliance, risk, audit, anti-money laundering, anti-fraud experts from many countries worldwide. So that was my path here.
So we're going to talk more about ProMoney and Eastern Europe in a minute. But the first thing I wanted to do is talk about Ukraine and life over the past few years. First of all, and most importantly, how are you doing in your day-to-day life?
I see. So thank you. As for moment, I'm fine. Thank you. At least as good as it can be in Ukraine under war conditions when the war lasts for 3 years, almost 3 years. Now I'm based in Ukraine at home in my home Dnipro city, and this city is located only 100 kilometers from the front line. So it's not easy to be here, really.
So, how is the life there for you, like day to day too?
Oh, people get used to everything. The first months of the war were really terrible and everybody was shocked. But everyone hoped that the war would end quickly. And as the war had been going on for almost 3 years, people began to live a normal life. As we can say, of course, normal life. Go to work every day, children go to school, shops, transport, bank, everything works. Only when there are alarms and bombings, the most people go to shelter. Since the Dnipro is very close to the battlefront, we have more than 10 alarms per day. When we are heavily bombed, then there is no power and we work without electricity and heating for 8 hours per day or even 16 hours per day. But people get used to this as well. And now everyone has adapted to this. And we have generators and power banks. So we continue working. For example, we continue arranging conferences even now in Kyiv. We arrange and unite community of compliance officers, auditors, etc. But the only difference is that these times we have to prepare 2 meeting rooms simultaneously. So we prepare one room above the ground and the other room is under the ground in shelter. Just for case if the bombing will start, we have to go to shelter to be secure. So, as I told, life is going on, and in any way, we try to find positive moments. And meeting with colleagues, with industry peers and old friends is one of these positive moments. So, of course, we continue to work and arrange conferences and unite community of professionals even in these conditions.
That's amazing to me about the idea of two rooms and one is above and below ground. I never thought of it like that, but it makes a lot of sense. And 10 alarms a day. I mean, you know, do you have, I mean, I'm just wondering, do you have a way that you know which ones are the really to be significant or not? Or is it just every time you go down to a safe area?
Honestly speaking, not every time because we have special chats in Telegram or other messengers, and we follow it and we see if there is some like drones or shaheds or something like this. We don't afraid them because our forces can battle them. But if we see that there is been to all territory of Ukraine, in these cases, of course, we go to shelter because it's really dangerous. Yeah. So
That's just so terrifying for those of us outside in the rest of the world. It just puts it in such a different perspective because we see the news every day, we read and we worry and different things. But thinking about something like that really does hit in a way hit home. So, is there any other things that you might want us to that listeners know about, or something you think we might be missing in not just the U.S. but all over the world, or or listeners to this type of podcast?
really, as I'm a Ukrainian and I live in Ukraine, I would like to tell that I admire our Ukrainian people, first of all, because we are really strong-willed people. In such difficult conditions, we are united and we support each other and we do everything that in our power to ensure that Ukraine wins and become a prosperous country. And really, it's our dream. So I would like to use this opportunity to express my deep gratitude and appreciation to the American people and also people from all over the world, from other countries who listen to us now for the support they provided to Ukraine since the war started. We appreciate it very much, and I feel and I'm sure that we are strong together. Thank you so much to everybody.
I'm sure we can all totally do more. And it is amazing to think about it as a dream and everything that you all are, fighting for. And that just the courage of living day to day and talking about adapting. It's amazing. Let's talk a little bit, and this is just quickly because of the war, sanction took a bigger look at it for a lot of us in outside of Ukraine with Russia and with others, and become sort of a part of a day to day life. Had the impact of either that in a real life way positively or negatively, how do they impact you all? And do you think, that it's been helping or not? It just how does it change any of it is really what I want to ask a little.
I think that it is assumed that these sanctions should primarily affect Russia and not us in
Right.
our daily life.
Right.
But as for Ukraine, we are grateful that the sanctions have political and economical pressure on Russia, and we hope that in all long-term perspective, we will have impact on Russia and it will improve our situation. Yes, so that's my opinion.
Yeah, I just say one of the things about it is you think about the people that are impacted in Ukraine and people day to day in Russia that may, actually be pro Ukraine and who's being impacted, and just hope that these things will have their intended reaction and not be even harder. So, you know, let's talk a little bit about you. And first of all, I first heard about you from Vera Cherapanova and Matt Kelly, and they are not only supporters of the podcast, but both said to me, you have to meet this woman. It's remarkable what she's doing. So they told me about the work that you've been doing to build this ethics, compliance, audit risk community in Eastern Europe, and the conferences that that you are building. And even when you're saying you do some in Kiev, you also are not able to use them the way you would have in the past. So you talk a little bit about this community and how you're building it.
Yes, sure. First of all, I would like to thank Vera Chiripanova and Matt Kelly for supporting our risk compliance forum that took place in Vilnius in October 2024 and express special gratitude for recommending me to you and to your podcast. It's a big honor for me to be here, and I'm also a big fan of yours. So, as for building ethics and compliance community in Eastern Europe, I already had extensive experience and holding international conferences on different topics, and especially for compliance officers, auditors, anti-fraud experts. When the war began, unfortunately, it became difficult, almost impossible to come to Ukraine for our colleagues from other countries abroad, and it became obstacle for arranging international conferences. But at the same time, for me, I think it was a great chance to expand and unite professionals from Eastern Europe. So today, our events gather more than 150 professionals from 15 countries, such as Baltic states, European countries, Ukraine, and other countries. I always remember, as Dale Carnegie taught us, when the life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So we tried to do this, and I hope it successfully. And to all other people, it is a big value to be united. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things all over the world is that in specific geographical regions, businesses, other thing, there might be specific or unique either needs or requirements within that community, especially when it comes to like a large certification body or something like that. What specific issues have you all identified or talked about for Eastern Europe?
Yeah, from my experience, I saw that there are many professional communities on compliance, audit, financial crime professionals, but all of them are more local. Of course, we have global ones like IA, ACP, ACOMS, but it is always interesting to learn another opinion, share new insights and experiences, and of course, meet new people. So it seems to me that the main value of our conferences is opportunity to share experience at the international level, expand international networking and cooperation, especially when it comes to ethics and compliance here.
Yeah. And I was wondering, has there been any sort of either surprising or specific or interesting insights, either from the networking component of it or substantive, something that took you kind of thinking, this is amazing, but it makes sense we talked about it or something like that. I find whenever I get into groups that happens, something is like, I can't believe I didn't think of this or I have. So something like that that's really struck you or hit home.
Yeah, we had a lot of insights really arranging these conferences for multicultural societies. And we try always to invite the experts working in different industries, not only countries, but industries as well, because it is very interesting to see how each industry or direction use new techniques or trends, etc. For example, best practices in compliance within the financial sector would be another than such practices in and approaches which used in retail or energy sector. And I believe the topic of ethics and compliance has no boundaries. And when our speakers deliver their speeches and share their experience, it's really very interesting. For example, in our autumn forums, there were very interesting report on the topic of building corporate culture as a basis for preventing fraud and corruption. And this is fundamental thing which is common for all countries and for all industries. And everybody was surprised how we can use this experience in each country and each industry. So because it is very common for us. So I would say that it is very interesting. And more to the point, we share with regular use, with trends, with innovations, with technologies, and everybody who participate in our conferences, they take best of this for them.
Yeah, culture is such a big deal, and it really does, as you mentioned, cross so many boundaries, not regional, organizational. I do think that most people are trying to do the right thing and trying to figure out how do they best do that and communicate it. And I think that that's just amazing to have done that and have that become one of the insights that you have from substantive conferences. I think that's really amazing and super fascinating. And now I know this is probably one of your favorite topics and one of mine that is the networking, and some of the recent events that you've done, because I know you've done some really cool things lately. So can you share a little bit?
Yes, sure. Honestly speaking, I can talk about my forums, about our events endlessly, and my favorite topic really is. But if we talk seriously, there was very inspiring events in compliance sphere where more than 150 professionals met at once. So it was a Risk and Compliance Forum and CE Anti-Fraud Forum, which we arranged in October in Vilnius. But we invited a lot of people from many, many countries. So we managed to gather a stellar lineup of speakers, including Vera Cheripanova from USA, heads of compliance services and respected experts from Switzerland, Czech Republic, Denmark, Israel, the Baltic states, Ukraine, Malta, Poland, UK, and many other countries. And thus, our participants had the great opportunity to learn about best practices and to have a great networking. So I believe that this brings big value to developing of ethics and compliance industry in all countries all over the world, I would say.
And it sounds to me that for some of them, you've got some very experienced people, but for some, it might have been one of their first true networking experiences. Is that possible? Have you been bringing, is that part of what happens as well?
Yes, yes. So, yes, it was a first time when some people met, but we continue to communicate with them all over the time. And I always tell that our forums never ends because we continue communicating and we continue co-working. And I would like to say that for now, we already start preparing our next events, which would be in October in 2025, and I am in touch with all our people and speakers and participants. So some of them ask me to introduce them to another. So our networking is expanding to many countries.
And hopefully, for those that are listening to this and that those that you speak with through this Great Women in Compliance podcast community, there are so many people out there who are both willing to share knowledge and, more importantly, want to learn. Because I say this a lot, and I think about it. Our field can be very lonely in the best of times when we're not in a war torn area or in an area of where high security, and still people feel alone and under resourced, and it brings people together. These discussions in so many contexts. It's why it makes it a great profession. So anything that is done there or that anybody can do to at least be in contact and help day to day. I know we have so many people who want to both help and learn more. So, one of the ways, how do we best support our ethics and compliance peers or family or community in Eastern Europe, and separately, also particularly for women, because that is our focus here.
Yeah, I see. So the best way to support compliance peers in Eastern Europe from ethics and compliance professionals from other countries, and especially women, is to give a platform to share the experience in this sphere, taking part in our events, being speakers, sharing insights, what regulatory news, and being in touch. And I believe that it would be a great contribution to development of this sphere. I think that your podcasts contribute a lot to the development of sphere of ethics and compliance, and thank you so much for this. I will be more than happy to cooperate with you in 2025 and see you and your community and risk compliance forums in October in Vilnius as our honored guests, as our speakers, and as our partners. So thank you so much. I believe that it will bring a great value to our community.
And I guess one thing I'd like to just ask Is it, do you have, and we'll put this in when we put out the notes and other things, but do you have a website or link or a good place for people to find information?
Yes, of course, we have our website of our company. It's www.promoney.events. And you can find all our events there because we have many conferences, not only these which I announced. We plan another forums and webinars and educational activities. So please be in touch with us and we will be happy to cooperate, of course.
Yeah, especially for, insights. You have a very unique perspective on so many different levels and aspects. And is there anything else, before we sign off that, you that have been big on your mind lately or you want to just kind of raise or think about?
I'm sure that people work with people, so I call it human to human, heart to heart. Therefore, I take this opportunity to invite everybody to join us, our community, our forums, and Eastern Europe share their knowledge and expand professional network. Also, I would like to wish everybody Happy New Year, health, wealth, prosperity. And I would like to thank you, Lisa, for this meeting and conversation. It was great. Thank you.
I'm so grateful to you for spending the time with me and again being a part of this community. The one of the great parts for us is always that when you realize because of something like Great Women in Compliance, you actually get to meet them from all over the world doing such amazing, remarkable things. And as we close off, I want to say you are doing, heroes work in extraordinary times. A lot of us are doing, I think, in the compliance community, are doing great work, but in an ordinary world where our problems, after hearing some of yours, do seem a little bit luxurious, not necessarily having the most up to date tool, et cetera. Not that we shouldn't have it, but I think it's amazing and exceptional what you're doing. And I thank you so much. And I thank you for being a part of the podcast. And on behalf of me and the podcast network and our sponsors, thank you so much. And whatever we can do. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I hope I will be glad that we meet this year together. Thank you so much, also.